Hi, ladies and gentlemen, Krzysztof the Polish Geek welcomes you to a very special video. This is one of those videos I've been very much dreading to make ever since the creation of this channel, because welcome to my top 25 favorite TV shows of all time. And yes, this is one of those videos that I wanted to make ever since this channel was created, but I also wanted very much to this video to have plenty of views, and I think like over 400 subscribers is good enough to finally make this video. So welcome to my top 25 favorite TV shows of all time, and literally this is one of my most important videos I've ever been making. And because the taste changes sometimes and new shows come out, this list is in fact subject to a change in like 5 to 6 years from now on. But for now, this is my definite top 25 favorite TV shows of all time. And as I just said, this is one of my most important videos I've ever been working on, and one of the ones I feel very passionate about. And so if you ever were curious about what are my favorite TV shows, then again, this is the list of my definite top 25 favorite TV shows of all time. So, number 25, and that's a show from my native Poland, a police show, W11 Wydział Śledczy, which literally translates to W11 Department of Investigation. And this is a Polish police show, and it's kind of a period documentary, which is kind of a thing in Poland where but first the show is about the police investigating a crime, generally a murder actually, and what's interesting is that the protagonists are actually real-life Polish cops, actually, who really exist, and they're actual cops. I mean, they are not like, they don't like go out on such dangerous missions as they go in the show, but yes, they really do exist, and they do deal with the crimes, which makes it so much more interesting. Like there is Anna Potacek, as well as her partner in investigation, Maciej Dębosz, and then there is Sebastian Wątroba and Joanna Czechowska, as well as Anna Pałka and Rafał Kopacz. And yes, they are all real-life cops, and I really find all the investigations interesting. It's like from the whole episode, generally each episode tells a different story about a crime, and then each one of the two pairs of cops is investigating the murder. I mean, like, each pair generally investigates an individual murder in one episode, and then in the end a culprit is revealed. And this is also really interesting, especially that the culprits can actually range. Some are just like kind of feel bad for them sometimes because of their motivation why they committed the murder, and then there are others who completely did it by accident, and then there are some others that are straight up psychopaths and you do nothing but cheer at the moment where they are handcuffed and arrested. And another interesting thing is that the show, or more like its sister show called Detektywi, which translates to detectives and doesn't just deal with the crime, is actually back on the spot. And I have to share this detail actually. I did actually apply for a cameo in that show, and I didn't even get a phone call with an offer, but I couldn't make it at that time. But I'm hoping there will be another opportunity, and I'm so excited to actually meet those cops because we'll play in the same show, so I will certainly get a chance to talk to them, and this will likely be a very interesting experience. But W11 Department of Investigation in the original Polish, W11 Wydział Śledczy, at number 25. At number 24, a new Netflix miniseries, Asterix and Obelix The Big Fight, based on famous French comics. And yes, if you've been watching my channel, you know I'm a huge fan of the Asterix comics. I just love Asterix comics, have so many of them actually, and I think that Asterix and Obelix The Big Fight is among the best Asterix adaptations. It certainly does make some changes, and very much does make some changes to fit the story into the modern day, which ultimately isn't a big deal, because what matters is that it doesn't detract from the main characters, which are Asterix and Obelix, and that's all that matters. I also really love the animation, it's just so beautiful. and gorgeous, and I really find the story really interesting. What I love is that this is the first time we actually get a whole backstory of Asterix and Obelix and their friendship, and actually see the whole moment how Obelix fell inside the cauldron with the magic potion. And this is oh so interesting, and also I love the plenty of jokes and pop culture references in a classic Asterix fashion. This is just oh so hilarious and funny, and this is literally one of the best Asterix adaptations. Like, my favorite Asterix movie is the 12 Tasks of Asterix, with my favorite live action as Asterix and Obelix take on Caesar, but this also very much counts now among my favorite Asterix adaptations, possibly even only second after the 12 Tasks of Asterix. As I said, they did certainly change a little bit things from the comics to kind of fit the modern politically correct world, but what matters is that it completely doesn't detract from the story, and the miniseries still very much maintains the core spirit of the comics, and the center very much remains on Asterix and Obelix, and the show very much has everything what you want from a classic Asterix. So yes, I love Asterix and Obelix, The Big Fight, one of the best adaptation of Asterix, and really excellent miniseries. This is the Asterix I love. Number 23, and this time it's a tie between the two shows that take place in the same universe actually, and that's a tie between The Punisher as well as Daredevil. And yes, I really love those Netflix Marvel Cinematic Universe shows. Those are so excellent, and as someone who actually does love the old Marvel Cinematic Universe, not any of the modern crap, but as someone who does really love old Marvel Cinematic Universe, I actually think those more grounded, street-level, realistic Netflix shows of The Punisher and Daredevil, as well as the first season of Jessica Jones, are much better than Marvel Cinematic Universe. I just love how it's more character-focused, and as I said, I also love how it's so realistic, and I love the characters, Matt Murdock as well as Karen Page and Foggy. The characters are excellent, and then so is Frank Castle, the Punisher, and John Bernthal does such a fantastic job portraying the Punisher. Sure, like John Bernthal was just born to play the Punisher. He's just excellent, especially of all those things shows. I think my favorite by far is the first season of the Punisher. Like, that is just excellent, but I also really love all 3 seasons of Daredevil. I don't even want to talk about Daredevil Born Again, despite the fact that it got plenty of positive reviews. I was one of the few people that truly didn't enjoy it, so I'll just stick with the first 3 seasons of Daredevil and first 2 seasons of the Punisher and the first season of Jessica Jones, because I was actually tempted to also put Jessica Jones in here, because the first season of Jessica Jones is also super excellent, but then with season 2 onward it kind of goes downhill from there. But yes, all 3 seasons of Daredevil are excellent, as are both seasons of The Punisher, and as I said, the first season of Jessica Jones is really excellent as well. But I really love those shows, those characters, the excellent fight scenes, and the neo-noir style of all those shows, and really interesting characters and the engaging storyline. So yes, The Punisher, Daredevil, and first season of Jessica Jones at number 23. Number 22, King of the Hill. Dun 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 dun. Yep, love King of the Hill. I mean, not very long ago, like only a month ago at this point, we got a whole revival, and that revival was so excellent and done so much justice to King of the Hill. But we're gonna talk about the King of the Hill as a whole. Like, I so much love the characters in the show. Hank Hill and his son Bobby, dang it Bobby, and then Dale's Dale, there's Boomhauer, there's Bill. I really love all those characters, the interactions with each other, and I just love how Hank Hill is basically like the only sane guy around. He always brings sense into people. Like, I just love Hank Hill, and he's very much the type of guy you'd wish you know personally in life and be friends with, because Hank Hill is just awesome, and I'm so happy he came back in the revival, and it's totally the same Hank Hill. But I also really love how, although the show is very funny, it's not like Family Guy, which only retires on satire. King of the Hill actually is very much story first and foremost focuses, and don't take me wrong, there's still plenty of humor and awesome and funny references, and there is a little bit of satire, but it's not so over the top like it is in Family Guy or The Simpsons or anything. No, because first and foremost though, it very much focuses on the family and personal life of Hank Hill and his friends and all that, and I really love it. It is really so interesting and it's so politically incorrect as well, and I did kinda find it a miracle that that in the modern day age it got revived, but it did. And really love King of the Hill. Screw Family Guy. I guess The Simpsons do have funny moments, I guess, as does South Park, but King of the Hill for the win. Number 21, and that's a BBC documentary, Walking with Dinosaurs, the 1999 one, obviously. Fuck the new one, but yes, I truly love the 1999 Walking with Dinosaurs documentary. It's so informative and educational, especially that I'm very fascinated by history as well as prehistory and all that, as well as animals and science. That stuff very much fascinates me, so you betcha I love dinosaurs, and yes, I just love it so much. It's so interesting and informative, and you can learn so much information about dinosaurs. I mean, there is some outdated scientific information at this point because so many years have passed since this was made, but it still doesn't prevent it from being so interesting, informative, as well as so immersive. Especially I love how much practical effects combined with a little CGI is there, because it's still just so immersive, and as you're watching it, it almost feels like that they went back in time specifically to film the dinosaurs and almost make like a BBC documentary specifically about dinosaurs. What it is, yes, but it feels like they deliberately went time just to film all that, and yeah, I love it. I love dinosaurs, and this is like so informative, and it still looks so excellent now, all the way back in 2025. Love Walking with Dinosaurs. One of my favorite documentaries. Number 20. Gravity Falls, and this is only a 2-season show, and yet it is so good. On the first glance, it comes off as a very easily dismissible kids show, but once you start watching it, you realize there is actually plenty of mystery to it and lots of adult humor that adults could completely not comprehend. And the finale is just completely Lovecraftian and so excellent. Like, I really love that show and the story and all the paranormal activity and the mystery, because the story is about two twins, Dipper and Mabel, who arrive to the town of Gravity Falls, Oregon, to live for the summer with their great uncle Stan, and lots of interesting paranormal activities start happening, and the twins try to uncover the whole mystery of the town of Gravity Falls. And this is also really interesting, and some really interesting unexpected paranormal things I said are happening, and some of this stuff is really dark, as I said, especially that, as I already been saying, the finale is straight up Lovecraftian, but I really love the mystery in the show, as well as some really unpredictable twists that you completely won't see coming. I mean, I heard some people did see them coming, but when I was watching it, I very much didn't, and they were a really unexpected surprise. But I also really love the characters, as Dipper and Mabel and Grunkle Stan, as well as Zeus and Wendy. I just love. Oh, and by the way, Bill Cipher is such an excellent and really dark and evil villain, probably one of the most creepy, scary, and evil animated villains ever, but also really awesome one. Really love Bill Cipher. And also, this show is also in some ways depressing, because it basically represents what Disney could be if it didn't stray down the dark path, because this show was made back in 2012, and it's one of the last truly good quality works made by Disney, and truly shows that if Disney kept being what it was originally supposed to be, a company making quality stories for the families, then this show is a perfect example of what Disney could be capable of if they only cared still about making quality stories for the families, if they actually were hiring passionate writers who truly care for giving audiences quality work. And this show is very much perfect example of that. Like, you'd expect after watching that show that Disney truly is Speak Now and only will keep giving audiences some really truly amazing quality shows with some really dark, unexpected elements, but that's absolutely not it. Like, this show is one of the last good quality works of Disney before completely straying on the dark path. And it's not to say that it was on the dark path in 2012 yet at this point. I mean, it kind of was, it's just that it wasn't particularly visible because it was like days of infancy of the Disney dark path, but doesn't change the fact that if Disney only cared about making quality stories for the families and actually kept hiring passionate writers, then this is the type of stuff we could potentially be getting. Oh well, still, let's be thankful we have a 2-season awesome Gravity Falls show. Number 19. Blood of Zeus. And this is one of those shows that could really have a potential to be even higher on the list, but because of the fact that Netflix only allowed the writers room for 3 seasons, it is here, because the writers originally intended for the show to be a 5-season, which very much would benefit the show, because especially that last season, season 3, very much felt like it totally should be told in 2 seasons. And even when I even did, actually in this video, I did even address actually what the original plans for the 2 season were, and that sounded really so awesome. So yes, if the writers did originally go with their original 5-season plan, then this totally could be much higher on the list. But as a result of being so rushed and only having 3 seasons because of that, it's here. But I guess it's still a miracle that it manages to be on the list at all, because other than being really rushed because of the writers not having room for as many seasons as they initially wanted, it's a really fantastic show about Greek mythology. I'm a Greek mythology aficionado. I love Greek mythology so much. I spent so much time reading Greek mythology back in my childhood. Really good memories and good times. And it's nice to get such an excellent show that's so authentic to Greek mythology while still telling an entirely new original story, but very much maintaining and staying completely true to the spirit of Greek mythology. And I love the characters, because especially that it's basically a tale of 2 brothers separated at birth, Heron and Seraphim. And I just really love that show so much, and the chemistry and brotherly love between Heron and Seraphim is just so excellent. Really love both Heron and Seraphim. They are the 2 main characters and also the 2 best characters in the show. Actually, my actual favorite character though is Seraphim. Yes, Heron is awesome, but Seraphim is the one who's by far the greatest character in the whole show. Like, just really love Seraphim. He's so excellent, but also think the animation is splendid, as is the action and fight scenes. And I also really love the classic Greek mythology monster designs, straight up taken out of Greek mythology. But overall, I really love Blood of Zeus. As I said, love the characters, love the story, love the authenticity to Greek mythology, and the only thing I wish that the writers did get a chance to go with the original 5-season plan, because if they really got a chance to go with the original 5-season plan, as I said, this show would be much higher on this list. But as a result of it being rushed, it's only number 19, which is still good. Number 18, and that's another example of a show that could potentially be much higher on the list, because that's 1997 Berserk, because the manga Berserk is just so excellent and so much better and more detailed from any Berserk adaptation. Objectively, I can't say any adaptation of Berserk has done the manga justice. I mean, like this 1997 series, which is still the best Berserk adaptation. Again, it is an excellent show, but it's only a sample of what true Berserk is, because if we actually had an fully uncensored Berserk adaptation from the very beginning to end, then this would not only be much higher on the list, it would possibly actually be at the top spot, or at least compete with the top spot, with my actual top spot. But as things stand out, because unfortunately this only adapts the Golden Age Berserk arc, which is the first arc of Berserk. So again, this is really nothing more than a small sample of what true Berserk is, because as I said, the manga is just super excellent, such an excellent story with really excellent characters, and R.I.P. Kentaro Miura. Kentaro Miura was such a phenomenal and passionate writer. Shame he never got a chance to finish his Berserk manga. Someday I will actually have to talk about the Berserk manga fully in depth, because as I said, no anime adaptation has ever done it justice. As I said, this is the 1997 adaptation, which again, it is by far the best adaptation of Berserk, and I really love the animation, and it's still pretty good if you don't read the manga, but the problem is not only it cuts out plenty of awesome details from the manga, but it only adapts the very beginning of the story, and then it ends on a cliffhanger, and that's pretty much it. But later Berserk arcs are even better. Like the first arc, Golden Age, is excellent, but Berserk actually only keeps getting better. It's just like one of the most excellent stories ever written, with Kentaro Miura, in my opinion, as being one of the most excellent and passionate writers that has ever existed. But I really wish I could put it higher on the list. But unfortunately, the truth is, the only way for it to... I really wish we got a fully uncensored Berserk adaptation from beginning to end. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon, and it seems like for now the 1997 Berserk is gonna be the best adaptation that we're gonna be stuck with. So I suggest that to truly experience Berserk, I suggest you read the manga. Like, manga puts every single adaptation of it to shame. So yeah, let's pray that someday we will get a full, truly good quality, uncensored Berserk adaptation. But for now, let's just stick with the manga. Because as I said, if we actually got a full, uncensored, from beginning to end Berserk adaptation, then it could totally be in the top spot on this list. Again, I do kind of feel guilty about putting it so low, but as I said, again, if it was a full uncensored adaptation of the manga, which unfortunately we'll likely never get, then, at least not anytime soon, then it would truly be at the top spot. Okay, and now my number 17 and number 16 are almost tied up. They kind of go back and forth, and both are pretty recent Netflix shows actually, with one ending very recently and the other one ending soon, in the beginning of next year actually. But they very much go back and forth. But I decided that at number 17 I'll put Stranger Things, and I really love Stranger Things. What I love about it is that I wasn't even born in the 80s, I was actually born in the 90s, 1994 more specifically, and yet what I love about the show is how it so easily manages to make you so nostalgic for the 80s, even if you weren't born in the 80s. But yet the show does a really excellent job of just making you nostalgic for the 80s, and I also really love the characters. I love how it tells the story of those kids and then later teenagers living in the 80s during the late days of the Cold War in the fictional town of Hawkins in Indiana, and then plenty of really interesting supernatural things happening, and there's so many different references to so many various 80s movies as well as TV shows, and while some references are pretty recognizable, on the other hand, on the others you actually gotta make some research, but yet the show really makes all those super fantastic, excellent references while telling a really fantastic and interesting story with really compelling characters. So I just love those characters, including Will Byers, Mike, Dustin, Eleven, Max, as well as their families and all that. And yep, but this is some really awesome, cool stuff. And by far, season 4 is my favorite season. Especially was by far the darkest and the scariest. Like, the plenty of the things that season 4 has done are straight out of a really scary horror, and not like a modern cheesy horror that practically isn't scary. Like the stuff that happened in season 4, there was some really dark, disturbing stuff actually, but I really love it. But will this show stay on the list? Well, season 5 is what will decide its fate upon this list. If season 5 delivers and gives us an excellent finale that we all deserve, then this show will very much stay on the list. Maybe even be moved higher, who knows. But if season 5 and the ending are a disappointment, then it might completely be taken off the list. On the other hand, because season 5, and which we are getting, the beginning of it we're getting in November, and then the end in the beginning of next year. So yes, season 5 is what will decide the fate of this show being on this list. If it delivers, it stays on the list. But if it fails me, it completely gets taken off. So, Stranger Things at number 17. And now at number 16, and it's another Netflix show, that's another Netflix icon actually, and that's Cobra Kai. And the reason I ultimately chose to put Cobra Kai above Stranger Things is because Cobra Kai, on the other hand, already has ended, and the ending of Cobra Kai is just so excellent, because Cobra Kai is a show that was never ever had, that you'd never ever expect the show to work, and yet it does so wonderfully. And why is that? Because the writers were actually passionate people who very much had a really amazing idea in mind and chose to bring their idea to life. And because what makes Cobra Kai so excellent, as I said, that I've never particularly been a fan of the original 80s Karate Kid movie. I mean, I did like the movie. I thought it was a really enjoyable, entertaining movie, but it was never among my favorites. It was never among my go-to movie. But, and yet, Cobra Kai just single-handedly made me a gigantic fan of the Cobra Kai Karate Kid franchise, because it's clear how much love and passion the writers very much had for the original movie, and decided, and the reason the show ended up working is because they actually had a good idea in mind. It's, on the first glance, might seem like a show, like a simple show that just a pure cash grab to just capitalize on a popular icon, but instead, because the writers actually had a good idea for an amazing story in mind, as a result, the show works wonderfully, because it very much stays true to the original movie and very much respects the original characters, including Daniel and Johnny and others, but while also passing the torch to the new generation. And it wonderfully balances itself between focusing on the new generation as well as the old generation, and very much respecting for what came before, something that vast majority of modern TV shows and movies very much are completely incapable of doing. And can anyone believe that we live in a world where I am so much more invested in the world of Karate Kid than in the world of Star Wars? But here we are. But ultimately, Cobra Kai is a show that never ever should have worked. But because, as I said, the writers actually had a good idea for a really amazing story in mind, and plus they respected what came before while very much telling a new story in the modern world. As a result, it just works so wonderfully well, and the finale was super excellent. Like, this is one of my favorite TV show finales, actually. This is how you stick the landing. I actually reviewed the Cobra Kai finale, and I very much stand by what I said back then. The finale was just excellent, as is the whole show. Love Cobra Kai. Number 15. And this show should probably consider itself lucky that it is even on the list at all. I bet vast majority of people likely completely taken off their list, but it's Game of Thrones. But the ending is the single worst ending in TV show history, and as I said, I'm still probably being generous. I'm even putting it on the list at all, because if the show stuck the landing, then it will be much, and I mean much higher on this list, because like season 1 to 4, it's some of the most excellent quality TV you'll ever find, with really fascinating, excellent characters, with a really well written and amazing dialogue, as well as plenty of political intrigue and violence. Like, yeah, this is some really awesome, dark, but really excellent, fascinating, compelling stuff. But, of course, once they ran out of the book material, it proved that Benioff and Weiss were nowhere near as good at writing as George R. R. Martin. Then again, he's not even finishing the books at this point, so you could say he's perhaps not that particularly great writer either at this point, but whatever, Benioff and Weiss proved to be pretty terrible writers. And honestly, seasons 5 and 6 actually were pretty good as well, and season 7 wasn't really that bad either. It's mostly season 8 that pushes it all the way back here to number 15. But again, it's probably considered itself lucky that it manages to be on the list at all, because there is this, on internet, there is this horse image that shows the show's decline in quality. That's the most common accepted image, but I have to strongly disagree. I think this is actually way more accurate. Yeah, this is way more accurate actually than the previous one, but either way, it's the worst, and I mean worst ending in TV show history, which is again a real shame because, as I said, the show has really fascinating and really excellent world building with really amazing characters and some really excellent, interesting lore and plenty of political intrigue. Like, all of that is a pure recipe for pure perfection. And as I said, season 1 to 4 is still some of the most quality TV you'll ever find, with season 4 of Game of Thrones by far my absolute favorite, possibly among the greatest seasons in any TV show history. And then again, 5 and 6 I still consider pretty good, but then the last season basically is a pure middle finger to everything that came before. And ultimately, the reason I ultimately chose to include it is because, again, because it still doesn't change the fact that seasons 1 to 4 is some of the most quality TV you'll ever find, combined with what a lifelong fan I was and how much I did love the show until the trashy ending. So I guess you could say, due to its legacy, that's why it still manages to be on the list. If it only had a great quality ending that done it justice, it would be much, and I mean much higher on this list, likely in the top 5. But I guess it should consider itself lucky it even manages to stay on the list. Vast majority of people likely don't even have it on their list at this point. Number 14 is what I recently reviewed. I actually gave it who you should be watching, the miniseries The Pillars of Earth. And I very recently gave it the whole you should be watching treatment, so I suggest you just watch the video if you want to know more of my thoughts on The Pillars of Earth. But to summarize, I'll just say I really love that medieval miniseries about the building of a medieval Catholic cathedral in glory to God, taking place in the fictional town of Kingsbridge in medieval England. And I really love the characters Tom the Builder, Jack Jackson, and the siblings Elena and Richard. And I really love the plenty of political intrigue and the action scenes and the excellent well-written dialogue. And this is basically like a pre-Game of Thrones, like Game of Thrones in medieval times before actual Game of Thrones. And because the miniseries, it doesn't outstay its welcome. As a result, it just tells a full complete story and is all the better for it. And I also love the full atmosphere as the Catholic choir and all that. But if you want to know more how I feel about that show, I suggest you just check out my You Should Be Watching video for The Pillars of Earth. But I really love the medieval miniseries. And number 14 on this list. Number 13, and that's this excellent Viking anime, the Vinland Saga. Love the Vinland Saga. This is by far my favorite Viking story, possibly even more than the Northman. And I still consider the Northman as among the best movies of this decade, but I just love the Vinland Saga even more because I just love the characters and the compelling story and all that. I mean, I guess granted, because the Northman is a 2-hour movie, while Vinland Saga, it's a whole long anime with plenty of episodes, so there's just so much more you can do. But I really love the Vinland Saga. The story is about this young boy named Thorfinn, whose pacifist father gets killed by a mercenary, Askeladd, and then Thorfinn challenges Askeladd to a duel, which he loses, and joins Askeladd's company. And Askeladd actually comes to have so much respect for the boy, even if Thorfinn himself still very much yearns for vengeance. But then the story goes in such an unexpected direction that you won't predict, but I really love it. As I said, I love the story, the compelling, complex characters, as well as plenty of intrigue and the direction and the Norse atmosphere of the whole show. And I also do love how at some points actually the show does discuss some differences between Christianity and Norse mythology, which is natural considering that Vikings did actually wage wars against Christians, so it's natural. But I really love the Vinland Saga. Like, I've only seen a few episodes of the show Vikings, but from what I've seen, I actually think I love the Vinland Saga much, and I mean much more. It's such an excellent Viking anime, and someday I will have to give it a you should be watching treatment, but I really, really love the Viking saga. Number 12. Star Wars The Clone Wars, and now this is one of the best and most excellent Star Wars stories ever told. Yes, Disney Star Wars very much sucks, but if you are really hungry for some good quality Star Wars story, then look no further than the Clone Wars. Like, now this is some really excellent quality Star Wars. I gave you the whole you should be watching treatment, and everything I said back then still very much applies. I love how it fleshes out the prequels as well as the Clone Wars, and also really love the world building. Like, one of the things the prequels have done better than the original trilogy, actually, one of the few things that the prequels have done better than the original trilogy is a pretty excellent world building, but the Clone Wars has even better world building, and it delves so much deep into the overall Star Wars world building as well as the lore and mythology. I really love that, but I also really love Ahsoka Tano. Like, Ahsoka Tano is still by far among my favorite Star Wars characters, and in the Clone Wars possibly actually my favorite. I mean, I do think she very much outstayed her welcome at this point and should have been killed by Vader in Rebels. I made a whole video on that, but in the Clone Wars it's actually Ahsoka at her best, and she just steals the thing in every scene she's in. I love Ahsoka. But I also really love what the show has does with Darth Maul, because like originally when the show was running, actually I wasn't watching it, I very much disregarded it as, oh, Darth Maul is back, like he should never be back. But after I watched the show, actually, after being hungry for some good Star Wars, after being really frustrated with The Last Jedi and all that, that's when I binged watched the show because my friend recommended it to me. That's when I thought like that bringing back Darth Maul completely made sense. I mean, it didn't fully make sense story-wise. He was brought back because he was popular, but at the same time, I'm willing to forgive that because they made up for it by finally using the character to his full potential. And so yes, I truly love the stuff that they did with Darth Maul, but that's not just it. I overall think the show is, as I said, really excellent, with really excellent storyline and plenty of interesting stories happening during the Clone Wars. I love the Clone Wars. Disney Star Wars sucks, but if you're looking for some quality Star Wars, then look no further than the Clone Wars, unless you already seen it. Number 11. The Orville. And yes, this is such an excellent science fiction series. It's basically, you could say, modern Star Trek, and as Jeremy Jones said, it's probably better than any modern actual Star Trek show. But I really love The Orville. I love all the characters, including Captain Mercer and his ex-wife Kelly Grayson, and then the robot Isaac, as well as Malloy. Really excellent, fascinating characters. But another thing I really love about it is the various deep and complex philosophical themes that the show deeply depths into and very much explores them, and it truly makes you think, especially that those themes are actually so relevant and timeless. Actually, this is some really fascinating, really excellent stuff. But I also really love that each episode tells basically its own individual story. I mean, it still very much ties into a grander story, but each episode also is sort of a story of the week format, but every episode is fascinating and you just can't stop watching and you're fascinated by where this is all going. I actually gave The Orville How You Should Be Watching treatment back in 2022, and I really haven't changed my mind. I loved the show back in 2022 when I watched it, and still very much love it when I rewatched it once again. And I've seen plenty of people back then at least saying that they want more of The Orville and they wish that season 4 would happen, but I was always pretty mixed on that. But now I don't want any more. Back then I was mixed because I so much loved The Orville that I just wanted more, but another part of me felt that the ending was actually pretty good, and who knows, that if they just basically start creating more stories, then it might kind of outstay its welcome and ruin it. So I feel that the ending of season 3 was pretty good and very much done the whole show justice. So I'm satisfied with just 3 seasons. But truly love the Orville. And outside of Steph MacFarlane's admittedly pretty militant atheist views, I think this show is just perfect. Thankfully, those views aren't really much shoved down your throat, but I love the Orville and various deep philosophical themes that the show explores and truly makes you think. Number 10, 24, and this is such an excellent series, excellent action series about a CTU agent Jack Bauer and how he always has to stop some plot against the United States in only 24 hours, and each season is such an excellent ride. But what makes it unique is that, as I said, each season takes place only in the span of 4 hours, with each individual episode telling about the particular hour it's happening. This is such a unique format, and as a result, every single episode always ends on a cliffhanger, and as a result, you just can't stop, you just keep wanting to watch more. And there are also so many interesting and unpredictable twists and turns in the show, actually, which as a result does make the seasons upon rewatch a little less interesting. Still super excellent, but this is truly one of those shows that is at its best when you watch it for the first time, largely because of so many interesting and completely unpredictable twists. And I think Jack Bauer is such an excellent, fascinating character. I love Jack Bauer, and Kiefer Sutherland was just born to play Jack Bauer. I really love Jack Bauer, but there are also plenty of other excellent characters in the show as well, like the very underrated character that plenty of people don't like, but I personally really love her, is Jack's daughter Kim Bauer. But I don't understand why does she get so much hate. I personally really love Kim, especially in later seasons. Actually, by her last appearance, she might actually be my second favorite character, only next to Jack himself. But another thing is that, while I will say that some seasons are in fact better than others in 24, but there is just no bad season in 24. Every single season is excellent. Again, some certainly are better than others, but there still isn't a bad 24 season. It's just an excellent ride from beginning to end, and I recommend you watch every single one of those seasons. And the very last season, which is only takes place in the span of 12 hours, and some jokingly call it 12, I think is a really cool and really great ending to 24. But again, really love 24, love the spectacular action, the characters, and Jack Bauer is the man. Number 9, Cowboy Bebop. And yes, this is big science fiction. Really love Cowboy Bebop. Lots of people say it's a perfect entry-level anime, and totally so. It got so many people into anime. I already was into anime by this time I started watching it, but I really love it. The animation is splendid, and it's basically a space western about those two bounty hunters, Spike Spiegel as well as his friend Jet Black, and each episode feels so unique and different from the other, yet all naturally very much feel as part of this world, because I love how, as I said, this show is basically a space western, and it takes place in space, but it very much combines classic Wild West western tropes with, entirely taking place in space. But each episode could actually be considered its own genre, such as a mid-period episode basically being a very, very dark thriller, for example, and among my favorite episodes of the show, actually. But another thing I really love is just the character development, because the character here are so well written and excellent, and sometimes they truly feel like real, believable people that really exist. But love Cowboy Bebop, among the best animes and best science fiction shows. Really excellent and splendid action. Love Cowboy Bebop. Number 8, and this is another anime actually, Fist of the North Star, and that's another thing I very much did give a you should be watching treatment, and I love Fist of the North Star. It's one of my favorite animes of all time, and love how it takes place in a Mad Max style post-apocalyptic world with the main character Kenshiro, who was trained in the titular Fist of the North style martial arts style, and how he goes from town to town to save innocent people from evil biker gangs, and sometimes it does kind of give me vibes of arcade beat 'em ups like Violent Storm and Final Fight, the type of beat 'em ups I did play quite a lot in my childhood in arcades, actually. But another thing I love about it is that I already said, it does take place in a Mad Max style post-apocalyptic world with plenty of martial arts, but I also love how it also very much includes a deep spiritual philosophy that very much goes into the Asian style of martial arts. I really love all that. Fist of the North Star is such a hidden gem. It's by far one of my favorite animes of all time, and I really wish more people rewatched it, because this is a real classic that more people should watch, because lots of people say that Dragon Ball Z is what gave birth to plenty of shonen tropes, but the truth is it's actually Fist of the North Star. I mean, Dragon Ball Z very much perfected those tropes and certainly became more known for them, but Fist of the North Star is the one that actually started those common shonen tropes. Dragon Ball Z is just that made them more famous and more popular, but it's Fist of the North Star, well, where everything truly lies. So if you're watching your favorite shonen anime, then just remember, it wouldn't exist without Fist of the North Star. Love Fist of the North Star, love the characters, and Kenshiro is just excellent. Number 7, Castlevania. And now, if you want some truly good, gritty, dark, medieval fantasy series, then this is it. Aforementioned Game of Thrones had a trashy ending. Berserk manga doesn't really have a good quality adaptation, and the 1997 one only adapts the very beginning of Berserk and then ends on a cliffhanger. Well, don't even get me started on The Witcher, which is a complete insult to both the books and the video games. So, if you want a truly quality, good, dark fantasy, medieval, gritty fantasy series, then Castlevania is it. And I truly love Castlevania, and this is by far one of the most rewatchable shows on this list, because I rewatched the show quite a lot actually, and I'm still so entertained. I really love Castlevania, and I also really love the monster designs, some directly taken from the video games. And what also amazing is that the show doesn't even hesitate to use some of the great music from the video games, like it uses Bloody Tears when the characters are storming Dracula's castle. And
I terrify them. Cypher disorients them, Alucard goes over the top, and we support him.
Yes.
Begin.
I really love the characters. I mean Trevor Belmont, as well as Saifa Belnandez and Alucard. Yep. Really love the characters. And there are plenty of purists who say, oh, this isn't faithful to the games. Well, hello, like the games almost have no story. I mean, they do have an excellent and fascinating lore, but if you just wanted a faithful adaptation of the video games, and you just ending up a different Belmont each generation, just going for a castle, fighting monsters, and then defeating Dracula. That's what we would end up with. But no, they had to change up the story from the games to make it more fitting for the medium that the story is being told in. And the show instead needs to focus actually on the characters and the character development. So, yep, there's just no way they could have adapted the story from the games, because a story, the way it's told in the game, just wouldn't work for a TV show format. So I think that all the changes they made in the story are actually for the better. And I've been talking about it quite a lot, actually, each time I talk about the show in this channel. I've been talking about this show quite a lot already. And the final thing I want to say about this Castlevania Nocturne, I wouldn't say it's quite as good as the first 4 seasons of the first Castlevania show, but Season 2 actually ultimately made me like it. And when I watch the show, I do generally just watch the first 4 seasons, and I do very much include Nocturne in my marathon. Why? While it's again not as good as the first series, I still think it's quite good in its own right. So yes, generally I just watch both the original series and Nocturne. And as I already said, Castlevania is by far one of the most rewatchable shows ever, for me at least. And now we're coming to the top 6, which are my 6 absolute favorite shows of all time. Because below those shows, you know this feeling like you aren't sure what you like more. Sometimes you feel like you like this a little more, sometimes you feel like you like this, you know what I mean? So you can't say all the shows are necessarily in order, and I wouldn't quite say these following 6 are in order either. I mean, like, I'm absolutely certain about my number 1, but I'm certain that they're very much in the top 6. And 6 to 2 are kind of interchangeable with each other. Sometimes I put this here, like, you know how it goes. But yes, I'm absolutely certain those are my top 6 favorite shows of all time. And coming in number 6 is DC Animated Universe, including Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, as well as Justice League. But yes, I love DC Animated Universe so much. In my childhood, I've spent time watching Batman the Animated Series, as well as Superman and Batman Beyond, and then I watched Justice League when I was much older, actually, when I was in my boarding school in Rhode Island. That's when I watched Justice League and loved it so much, but I just love DC Animated Universe. Like, the stories are so excellent, and the quantity of superheroes and supervillains from the comics is just beyond me. Like, we won't ever get anything such a quality comic adaptation thing ever. Like, Marvel Cinematic Universe is great, but it's just nothing compared to the quality and awesomeness of DC Animated Universe. And it shows that sometimes animation can totally be better than the live action medium, because as I just said, even the greatest Marvel movies are just nothing compared to DC Animated Universe. Like, the storylines are excellent, as are all the superheroes and the action scenes, and as I said, the quantity of the things they just picked from the comics is just astounding and completely beyond me. I love DC Animated Universe. It's among my favorite animated shows. Again, it's even hard to say which one of all those animated superhero shows I like the most, so I decided to just put them all in one spot as DC Animated Universe anyway. I mean, they do take place in one continuity, and it's not like you really can watch them without watching the other one. They are kind of like made in a way when you're supposed to watch all of them to really grasp the full idea of what's happening. So, DC Animated Universe at number 6. Number 5, and that's another show from my native Poland, Gliniarze, which translates to cops in English. And yes, this is basically a spiritual successor to my number 25, but I think it's just so much better than it. The cops this time are actually fictional characters, but I love it. And what I love about Gliniarze Cops actually is that while it still is very much a police investigation, which generally ends with a bad guy being caught, but it also focuses on personal lives of the cops and explores their personal issues with their families as well as their past, etc. This is also interesting and fascinating. As a result, you still very much have police investigation and mystery, but also some really interesting character-driven storytelling. I love that, and love the characters, including a female cop, Natalia Nowak, and her partner Kuba Rogus, Olgierd Mazur, Lucja Wilk, Christian Gurski. Really love all those characters, and also because the show is going for such a long time, new characters do keep actually coming, and they are really interesting. And another thing I have to say about this show is it's still very much going. It's not even over yet. In fact, this fall, it just returned its fall, and episodes are very much coming out. Actually, I'm not watching them because I'm not fully caught up yet, so I'm kind of behind. But I really love that show. Although I sadly won't be able to ever give it a "you should be watching" treatment because the show has never got any release outside of Poland. I really wish it someday got an international release with English subtitles. Most certainly won't, unfortunately, because it's not something that's particularly well known and people will be interested in, but really love that show and the characters, and yep, love Gliniarze. Number 4, and that's another show from Poland, and that's Szkoła, a Polish para-documentary show called Szkoła, which literally translates to high school in English. And this show actually does kind of have a negative reputation as being not particularly smart, but I think people who constantly say this show isn't smart and people who watch it are not smart are really pretentious. Like, you don't have to like the show, but you shouldn't be insulting people that love it. Like, yes, the storylines are kind of silly, but come on. Regular high school life of students is kind of boring, so obviously something interesting has to happen to make the show interesting, and I personally loved it. I love how this show basically explores the life of those high school students and teachers in the fictional school in Poland, in the city of Krakow, and that's all really interesting, and this is a perfect cheer-me-up show. Like, I really love the characters, and in some ways they do feel almost like real people, because it's, as I said, it's para-documentary, so it's kind of filmed in a documentary style that is supposed to look real, because it's not. I said those are fictional characters, but it is filmed in a way that it's meant to look real. But I really loved it. As I said, this is a perfect cheer-me-up show, and almost every single day I do make it a tradition to watch like 1 or 2 episodes of High School just to cheer myself up, because this is very much a cheer-me-up show, for me at least. So yes. Like, you know, when people have anxieties and they do various different things, sometimes to calm themselves down, this is one of my ways to calm myself down. Watch an episode or 2 of Szkoła, High School. I really love that show, and I don't care how people say it's a silly show. It's very pretentious to say it. I love Szkoła, High School, and that's all there is to it.
No, dawaj! Jedziesz! Michał Konrad!
Coming in number 3, and that's another BBC documentary, actually a tie between the two, and that's The Blue Planet as well as The Blue Planet 2, and directed and voiced over by a really excellent David Attenborough. And I really love The Blue Planet, and I love how it's so educational and interesting, and it teaches so much about the Earth's oceans, because newsflash, we actually know a lot less about the oceans than we know about the space. Can you believe that? But I love it. I love the visuals, love how it explores the beautiful coral reefs as well as the blue ocean and the various beaches in Antarctica. This is some really fascinating stuff that it's so educational and so interesting. I in general really love learning and reading a lot about the Earth's oceans, and sometimes just if you're too tired and don't want to read, then I think that The Blue Planet is a perfect documentary to watch. And as I said, it's also so informative and so fascinating, especially that when you see all the filmed images, actually, it just makes it even so more interesting and wondrous. But I love both The Blue Planet and The Blue Planet 2. Really fascinating and so educational. You can just learn so much from the Blue Planet documentary. And as I said, David Attenborough is such an excellent narrator and can teach you so much interesting and fascinating things. And now, for number 2, let me take you to another dimension. Beyond that, which is known to men, and it's known as the Twilight Zone. And yes, the Twilight Zone is just pink and true embodiment of good writing. This show is very old. It's a black and white old anthology series made all the way back in the 50s, and each episode tells an entirely different, unique story, generally within the genre of science fiction, but some other interesting genres like horror, for example, are also pretty common. And generally, each episode ends with a completely unpredictable twist, and the show also explores plenty of deep themes such as true nature of humanity, among other things, and all that. But again, the Twilight Zone is just a peak of truly good and quality writing, especially that it was made back in the 50s where just special effects and CGI completely did not exist, and because of that the writers had to focus on important things that truly should matter actually, which is good writing and quality storytelling. And that's why you still have such an excellent, timeless TV show, one of the greatest ones of all time. But my number one favorite TV show of all time is, and lots of people say anime doesn't belong at number one, but you just gotta be honest when you make your favorite list, don't you? So, number one is, I think everyone probably figured it out, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like, there is nothing else that could possibly be on this list, because this is both the greatest anime of all time, the greatest animated show, but also my favorite show of all time. And with Steel Ball Run upon us, it further only reaffirmed my stance, because Steel Ball Run is coming soon, and everything I'm hearing about it just only reaffirms this show as my number one. Like, I know for a fact I won't be disappointed with Steel Ball Run. This is by far the best part from what I keep hearing, and the more I keep hearing about it, the more it very much seems the case. So, yes, I mean, Steel Ball Run coming soon only reaffirmed my stance of this being number one, but even without it, I probably would put it at number one anyway. And what I love about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is that it's so bizarre, but it just so works. It's hard to even explain, it just works. But the animation is splendid, as are all the characters, and I love how it's basically a generational saga about the family of the Joestars fighting with the vampire Dio. And the first part is Phantom Blood and takes place in Victorian England, and it's basically a gothic horror. And then part 2 is Battle Tendency, and it's more like, it tells a story about Jonathan's grandson Joseph, and it's basically an Indiana Jones adventure story with some superhero elements thrown in. And then Diamond is Unbreakable is also, no, I mean, what am I saying? Part 3, Stardust Crusaders, actually, is also kind of an Indiana Jones style story, but now told in a Mortal Kombat fighting style, with the characters using the stands. And then part 4, now that's Diamond is Unbreakable, it tells on the other hand, a mystery thriller taking place in a small town of Morio in Japan. And then part 5, Golden Wind, is a Godfather style gangster story taking place all over the beautiful country of Italy. And then part 6 is a prison story, and now an upcoming Steel Ball Run part, on the other hand, is gonna be a western. And again, who doesn't love a western, a good western once in a while? And JoJo being a western is just like perfect. Like, I'm so excited now that Steel Ball Run is gonna be a western. This is just gonna be so perfect. But I just love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Love all the characters, love the fight scenes, love the fascinating storylines. Like, love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's probably, again, it's my favorite anime of all time, and ultimately ended up being my favorite TV show of all time on this very list. And words cannot express how excited I am for Steel Ball Run, even if it likely would be at the top spot anyway. And again, though, admittedly, JoJo isn't actually for everyone. It doesn't appeal to plenty of people because it is very specific, so understandably it doesn't appeal to a lot of people. But the best way to describe JoJo, I like how someone described it. You don't choose JoJo. JoJo chooses you, and it very much chose me as one of its top fans. But yes, love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, can't wait for Steel Ball Run. So ultimately, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at number one. Both my favorite anime of all time and just my favorite TV show of all time. So folks, that completes my top 25 favorite TV shows of all time. And as I said, this was one of those videos I've been dreaming to make ever since the creation of my channel. So here we are, and I'm so happy that I was able to finally share that list with you folks, because this is one of my most important videos to me that I ever made on this channel, and I really hope it gets plenty of views because this video is so special to me. But I'm so happy that I was able to finally share this list with you all, because these are my top 25 favorite TV shows of all time. And the next list, that I'm gonna make, that also I've been dreaming to make ever since my channel, likely next year, probably actually, is top 30 or top 25 favorite video games of all time. Because yes, that's also a list I've been dreaming to make ever since the creation of this channel. So yes, you can expect a year from now my top 25 or 30 actually favorite video games of all time, and then 2 years from now likely 50 favorite movies. But yes, that concludes my top 25 favorite TV shows of all time. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for checking out this list. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and next year you will see top 25 or maybe actually top 30 favorite video games of all time. And see you in the next video. Bye.